Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. As we convene on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day, let us take a moment to reflect on the enduring principles of equality and justice that Dr. King championed. May this day inspire our commitment to fostering an inclusive and equitable learning environment for all students. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a draft agenda in front of us. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
I got Jake and Christy on the second. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay. Up first, we have recognition. Dr. Matthews.
There is no recognition this evening. Our middle school students of the month for January will be recognized in February because we've only had a week back in school. And last week we only had 2 days in school.
Yep. Okay, very good. On to our consent agenda. We have 4 items tonight. Approval of minutes from December 11th closed session meeting, the approval of minutes from our December 11th regular meeting, presentation of bills in the amount of $13.6 million, and certified staff resignation. Can I have a motion to approve our consent agenda items?
No motion.
Christy, support? Nick? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. New business number 1, board member organization. It's our January meeting, so it's time to elect officers. So the process is to elect a president first, and then vice president, treasurer, secretary in that order. We'll open each role up for nominees. Once we have nominees, then we'll vote. First to 4 gets the job. So starting with the president, can I hear nominees for president?
I'd like to nominate you, Jared Folsom, for president.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other nominees? Okay, all in favor of me continuing as president, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Next is the role of vice president. Can I hear nominees for the role of vice president? I'm going to nominate. You want to go ahead?
I nominate Kelly.
Kelly, go ahead. Awesome. All right, we got Kelly. Any other nominees? Okay, all in favor of Kelly continuing as VP, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay, thanks everybody. Treasurer is next. Can I hear nominees for the role of treasurer?
I would like to nominate Jake Himmelschbach.
Okay.
I'm familiar with that.
Got Jake down. Any other nominees for treasurer? Okay. All in favor of Jake continuing in the role as treasurer, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay, very good. And secretary, nominees for secretary. I'll nominate Christy Ramsey to continue as secretary.
Sure.
All right. Any other nominees? Okay. All in favor of Christy continuing as secretary, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good. Thanks, everybody. Just a quick comment on, I think the main thing is committees. In our conversations, in our one-on-one conversations in December, I think there was kind of a unanimous agreement that it made sense to continue our committee alignments in the status quo. So the committee assignments that are in place prior to today will stay in place today and going forward, based on your input in those conversations. And then the other thing is, and we talked a little bit about it before, was building liaison assignments and that kind of thing. We haven't made any changes to that. We certainly can, so I guess I can follow up with you after tonight. If anybody wants to make a swap to building assignments, we can figure that out. So it's status quo for now, but we can swap some things if people are interested in making changes there. Just let me know. Yeah.
I asked that we recognize Edgerton Trails this summer, potentially at the July meeting. Yeah.
Yep. I think that makes sense. Okay. Good. Thank you. So that's it for organization stuff. Other items that we would typically handle on the org items list will come up in July. So mid-year. Okay.
The start of the school calendar year.
Yep. Start of the school calendar year in July. Okay. New business item number 2, school board recognition. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you. Today, January 15th, is a big day. It's National Hat Day, National Pothole Day, National Fresh Squeezed Juice Day, and National Bagel Day. But recognizing important days, events, and people is kind of a thing in January. There was Fruitcake Toss Day on January 3rd, National Spaghetti Day on January 4th, and Peculiar People Day on January 10th. There will be Appreciate a Dragon Day on January 16th, National Popcorn Day on January 19th, and Yodel for Your Neighbors Day on January 30th. But seriously, we also celebrate some important things in January. We celebrate the start of a new calendar year. We celebrate and honor Martin Luther King Jr. today, January 15th. And tonight, we also take a moment to celebrate School Board Recognition Month. Each January, the over 600 school districts in Michigan take time to recognize and thank the people who serve our communities as Board of Education trustees. In the Rockford Public Schools, we have 7 members duly elected by our community to serve our community and oversee the policy and governance of our school district. Our Board of Education has historically served without remuneration, ensuring that all community voices are represented and heard in our board meetings. The board's own guiding documents identify that the board's focus is on policy, oversight and accountability, community representation, and establishing the district's vision, mission, and strategic plan. Tonight, we would like to thank Jared Folsom, Kelly Freeridge, Christy Ramsey, Jay Kimmelspach, Tricia Anderson, Barbara Helms, and Nick Reichenbach for serving our community. Your commitment to our community and your willingness to sacrifice time and effort for our student, staff, and community is deeply appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay. Any other item? No. So we're on to new business number 3, the financial audit.
And tonight we have Allison Clements, our new Executive Director for Business and Operations, I think, is what we have identified, is here, and she will be introducing our audit presentation.
Yes.
Ms. Clements.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. I have Mark Sawyers here with us this evening. Mark, come up. Mark is a shareholder at Rockford Nichols CPAs and Advisors, and he leads the audit team that conducts our financial audit. Mark will be presenting our annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2023. If you have any questions for Mark, there will be an opportunity at the end of his presentation for you to ask him those questions.
Thank you, Allison. Hello, everybody. Good to be here with you tonight on such a frigid, cold, snowy, nasty night.
That's
Beautiful out.
none of those things are true.
Yeah, it's a warm in here, so just what everyone wants to gather for a nice audit presentation. I told Allison before, this can be a 10-minute presentation or up to 30. I don't think anyone wants to sit for 30, so I'm going to roll through this really fast. Feel free to stop me. Any questions, I'll try to answer. If I have to get back to you, I can do that. But otherwise, yeah, just interrupt. There are 2 audits to go through, so as if it's not enough to deal with one audit, Allison has the pleasure of dealing with us twice in the year. We do a single audit that's due to the grants that you receive. Really, any somewhat large district will receive a single audit based on those level of grant expenditures. So you're well over the threshold of needing that audit. So I'm going to go through both, hit on a couple high notes. We have some slide presentation slides. I see some of you have the report in front of you. It kind of flows along with it. So just, again, stop me whenever needed. Audit process. So, that's critical to the relationship between us and the business office. I always like to give big credit to them and how much work they do for us. We come in with lots of requests, lots of questions, lots of back and forth, and she handles that very well. Taking over from Mike, we had a long-standing relationship with. I think that's difficult in an audit. It's felt like a really smooth transition, so we're really happy with that. Really no impact at all on the audit process. So the great business office team, as you all know. We submit timely each year, and that says something here because Mike in the past always wanted late field work. So you were one of the last schools we visited for audit field work, would have a quick turnaround, and we have always submitted that report on time. Education Stabilization Fund, I'm sure you've talked a lot about over the last 3-4 years here. Finally getting close to winding down. I know there's still some to spend here. I have a slide towards the end where I'll hit on that. Ongoing construction. Since I've worked with a firm, I think it's pretty much been consistent construction, which adds another element to the accounting side of things. You have to track those bonds, you have to track those expenditures, prepare for an audit of the bond in the future, and that's something we also work on with the business office. So I have a couple figures on that of what we experience right now. And I say right now, June 30 of last year, so we're halfway through the current year, and these numbers have changed certainly, but 28.5 million in construction in progress, very significant. It's a lot to keep track of, a lot going on here. That was added this year with a total of 35 million or so at year end. This was a year really of adding to the construction, not necessarily finishing it. A couple paving projects, but some of the big projects are ongoing. So I listed those out there with North Rockford Middle School, a couple elementary schools. Then the summary of the auditor's report. So if you're in the actual report, most important page obviously is our opinion letter. That's where we opine on your financials. We're saying they're fairly presented. What you want us to be doing is cutting and pasting the language in that letter, meaning it's an unmodified opinion. It's the highest level that you can receive. MDE accepts no less. Again, we've always had unmodified opinions here, no issues in that regard. We also report on internal controls over financial reporting. So we perform walkthroughs of controls with the business office, evaluate the strength of those controls and how they impact our audit and the audit process. No issues in that regard either. We look at material non-compliance, so all sorts of laws and regulations, budget, construction fund requirements, these sorts of things that you have to think about, and that's considered in the audit as well. So just to give you the context here. Finally, if you don't, as if there wasn't enough to do, there's GASB pronouncements every couple of years. Recently, it's felt like you've been pounded with those. This year we had GASB 96. So if you remember the lease discussion from last year, very similar, but this relates to software-based IT agreements, but similar conceptually in the impact of the audit. Compensated absences was less talked about, but was another one we implemented this year. I like to give context. I don't know how many of you are new to the board and if you've heard this presentation before, but governmental financial statements are unique. And really there's two sets of financials that are presented in there, one of which has more of a long-term focus. That's the district-wide financials, your governmental fund financials, so your general fund, your special revenue funds, your debt funds. Really that's where you probably spend most of your time evaluating each fund, the fund balances, and how those change over time. Those are in the governmental fund financials. So in the MD&A, if you're going to read anything in the report in detail, spend some time with MD&A. It does a good job of explaining those. There's also a couple spots in the notes that explain the difference, note 8 of the financials between those two sets. But really the easiest way to think of it is that long-term focus. So your pension and OPEB liabilities are in your district-wide financials, but not in your governmental fund financials. And then the reconciliations, page 18 and 22 of your report, you can see exactly what's new. So what we have here is the statement of net position. So this is a condensed version. This is what's in the MD&A. It gives you an idea of what's changing from last year. Now a whole lot to talk about here, except to point out again, this is your district-wide financials. So this shows a massive net pension or net position deficit, which is common of any school year size. You have very large pension OPEB liabilities. Those are out of control of the district. They're the district's share of the statewide liability as it relates to those pension and OPEB plans being funded. So really drastic fluctuations the last few years with the impact of COVID on the market, that impacts those valuations and the liabilities. So it'd be nice if we had 3 years here. We don't, we only have 2, but the year before was more consistent with 2023. And that was all, I won't say all driven by the plan investments, but that was a significant factor in those variations you see. So again, this is why really the governmental fund financials, looking at your general fund, your different funds individually, probably holds a little more value at a board level than these figures. Nevertheless, a couple things to point out, and I already talked about the changes in the pension and OPEB liability. The timing, September 30 is when they measure that, so I'm not a market expert, but if you go back to September 30 of each year, the market fluctuated pretty drastically. And there was a year, I think it was 2021, so that 22 column, where things were a little better and the liabilities were reduced pretty drastically. Your net pension, your net position increased 6.1 million, so we're going in the right direction, but again, heavily impacted by those pension and OPEB liabilities. And you did, I should have said, you did have the bond issuance this year, so changes in your cash, your investments, your liabilities were directly related to that. Statement of activities, so this is basically your income statement showing different changes in revenues, expenses at the district. Highlighted a couple of those on the next slide here. So fairly consistent with your revenues being up compared to your expenditures. We all know costs have risen in recent years. I'd say this is about what to expect from district to district that we work with. The one-time MIPSERS deposit impacted it quite a lot. You got $5 million here, and that was basically an in and out, so that impacts your expenditures and your revenues with a net zero impact on the bottom line. Instruction, supporting services, those went up again because of that. Those are also impacted by all the activity in the construction funds and with capitalizing expenditures and this sort of thing. So GASB 34 would explain a lot of that. Not time for that today to go off on the GASB 34 tangent. No, would enjoy that. Now the governmental fund financials. So I've harped on this a little bit. These are your general fund, the district's primary operating fund. You increased your fund balance this year, one of 4.8 million. Large increases in state and federal revenues, really consistent with any district in the state, with increases in instruction and supporting services at a lesser amount, really was what led to that increase in fund balance. In a minute here, I'll hit on what your fund balance percentage is, because it sits in a nice, healthy area, not too high, not too low, really healthy, good fund balance. Have a few other statistics on this slide here, but not really worth going through each of those. Again, this is the budget to actual, excuse me. So at a board, I mean, you spend a lot of time with the budget side of things. This is a really important page of the financial statements, kind of gives the look of how you did it from a budgeting perspective. I would say this year a little more negative numbers than you'd want to see on a year-to-year basis, but the percent difference at such a large district is very small. The percentage, the 1.6 million to almost $112 million in total expenditures this year. So I mentioned the percentage. MDE recommends 10 to 20%. You're sitting at 13.8, kind of right smack in the middle of that range. So that percentage is based on next year's, being the fiscal year 24 budgeted expenditures with that ending fund balance of 15.1 million. After this point, I'm just going to really kind of breeze. I mean, there's lots of notes, lots of commentary in the notes of the financials. A couple to key in on, you have large amounts of investments here, especially with the new bonds. So note B goes into detail on that. Note C talks about state school aid, how that works a little bit. You know, property taxes are a large revenue source of the school district. So some information in that note about property taxes. I mentioned construction just ongoing consistently here. So capital assets, there's a lot going on. It's a good note to look at. Note E there, and then long-term debt, and note G. Pension and OPEB plans, that's what we do with that is we're really compiling audited information at the state level. So we're taking the Office of Retirement Service publishes data tables. We bring those all together and present the information in the notes. So there's a lot of detail there. Not the best reading material, but have at it if you're courageous enough to do that. They're really good information in both of those notes. Any questions? This is the slide where I switched over to the single audit, the federal compliance audit. So any financial related questions you have now, feel free.
The $5 million, or the $5 million deposit that was for MIPSERS, was that something that every school district had to make?
It did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a distribution.
Just to get us caught up.
Yeah, to help reduce that overall liability at the state
Okay.
level. Yep.
It was the billion or so extra that Lansing put in to pay down the pension fund. So
Public Act 2, maybe. I believe
Yeah.
that was the one.
yeah,
Our slice of that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
and I think
Again, net zero impact, so it just impacts.
yeah, I think the only question I had is what process, and forgive me, I didn't send an email ahead of time, but what process did you audit when you walked through the business office? You know, was it payables? Was it?
Oh, in general with the internal
Yeah,
control
just
side.
in general,
of things.
internal
Sure.
control side, just because we don't always have visibility to that.
Yeah, so it's a risk-based approach. So what we do in an audit, we identify what are critical, significant audit areas where we think the most risk lies. Payroll is often an area, so we'll go through a payroll internal control walkthrough. And then generally, general AP and expenses is a key area. Also fund balance. So those are the three kind of key
Well, I knew
areas.
you cherry picked some, and I just wanted to,
Sure, yeah.
ask at least one question on
Yeah.
that part. The numbers are good. I mean, the 13.8% fund balance, when I joined the board, it was barely over 2. And that was on purpose. But the fact that we've met our long-term goal, so that we have fund to pay for the new elementary staff of 40 to 45, whatever. it just helps, it helps solidify what we've done and what the district has done. So I did want to ask about the process though, because sometimes I don't know what you might cherry pick in a given year, so thank you.
That's a good question. The impact, I mean, that impacts the audit procedures, those high-risk areas, more detailed type of testing compared to analytical type of testing that is performed. So that's really the impact on the audit.
I had one question for you too, a quick one. The general fund at 13, did I hear you right? Is that expected for, 23, 24?
Yeah, so it would be the
Okay,
15.
I heard it wrong,
Yeah.
my bad. No, thanks.
All right, the federal compliance audit. So again, if you have $750,000 in federal expenditures, those grant expenditures, you need this audit. It is a risk-based audit as well. So one important takeaway there is we do not audit every single program you have. We go through a process, we pick what's called the major program. Usually, as it would allude to, those are the larger programs of the district. So here you have your nutrition services, your special education fund, and in recent years, the education stabilization fund that was deemed high risk at a federal level. So we're really auditing that every year, almost every school that we visit. So we're really looking forward to those funds being fully expended. So anyway, this is the recap, I guess, of the actual letters that are in the report. There are 2 of them. So if you open the small report, you'll see those letters there. Similar to the audit opinion letter in the financials, you want us not to modify those, and we have not, either one of them. The first one relates to internal controls. In a single audit, there's a higher level of expectation as it comes to how we look at internal controls. We actually have to test those. So this report in a way is a reflection of that, but also to communicate that this audit goes hand in hand with the financial audit. So the numbers need to reconcile with each other. The expenditures we show in the CFA, which is the schedule of expenditures in there, need to tie to federal revenue that we're reporting in your financial statement. So there's a note that does tie them together. I think it's note D in the report there. But no issues, no internal controls impacted our risk assessments for the single audit. Then the second of the 2 is probably the more important in my opinion because it's the actual product of what we're doing in a compliance audit where we're testing compliance of the programs that we look at. So that again, unmodified, we had no issues with the programs we tested this year. This is a summary of everything. I hit on a couple of these things, but you can see, $6.5 million last year, just over $6 million this year. So really have spread out the education stabilization fund dollars a little bit so that you don't have one really big year and where it's tapering off. I think that is pretty consistent here. And as you can see, the type A programs, those are those major, larger programs. You have a few here that I mentioned. And we're looking at often the same programs, that are shuffling and changing around every few years, but nutrition, special education fund being the main 2 at this district. This year we tested 64%. That's more than we need to. That's the way it fell this year with the size of those programs and us being required to test those. So in the future, you'll probably see more of one program listed on this line. That's what we're hoping for. Often we can meet our requirements by just testing one program, but the last few years it's been 2, 3, sometimes even 4 in some districts. So no findings reported, and you're a low-risk auditee, which does carry a lot of value. That impacts the percentage of coverage that we need. We would need double what we need at 20% for a low-risk auditee, so we would need 40 if you were high risk. I threw this in here just to show you, as of June 30, again, this was 6 months old or so, but this shows you what was remaining in the 2 primary remaining ESF grants, so your 11T equalization and your ESSER 3. So we'll probably look to audit these funds again one more time, and then that might be it. Any questions on the single audit? Because beyond that, I just will quickly tell you about the letter, and that's all I have for you. All right, so the letter to governance, we call that the SAS 114. We're required to communicate with you, and this is our opportunity to communicate any issues we had in the audit, the comments on Allison in the business office. Obviously, we didn't have any issues there. No disagreements with management. Always been great to work with. We have good collaboration. If there's ever a topic that there's a gray area on, we work through those things, whether with Mike in the past, with Allison in the future. So no issues there. We would list out large material adjusting journal entries recommended. You'll find none in there. The district takes pride in not having any entries, which is a challenge with a district your size. So we usually have some sort of entries, but no material ones this year. And then there are a few other matters to note. You have an excess fund balance here in your food service fund, which I don't have a percentage statewide, but a very large percentage. And that was just due to increased reimbursement rates. And MDE likes to see that fund with a very restricted fund balance level. So that's something, you have an approved plan with MDE, you're working on that spend down plan. That'd be something the next year to continue to focus on. And worth noting, this was in here at the request of MDE because it's not technically a federal requirement, but it is something that at the state level MDE is tracking. They've asked audit firms like us to assist with. So we put it in the letter there. On the horizon, monitoring that spend down plan, monitoring the remaining federal funds. I talked about the bonded construction fund audit. I know this is a lot. We'll be working on those in the near future with Allison. Luckily this year, no major GASB implementation, so that's one slight break we get. That was a lot, I know. So I don't know if I kept it short. I always say I'm going to, but it doesn't work out. Any questions?
I am curious, and this might not matter, but I am curious, what is 11T equalization? What's the difference between that and the regular ESSER 3 fund?
Ooh, I don't know if I can recall the exact, the legal side of it and where exactly those funds were drawn from. Okay. Only certain districts receive 11T equalization. Usually districts where poverty levels are lower. And maybe someone else has a better explanation than that, but
There's a lot of subgroups involved in the 11T equalization.
Yeah. I believe there's 24 subgroups of the same federal program. So when we audit the program, we have to look at every single piece of funding that fell under that.
Got it.
But it's all formula. A lot of the funding was distributed was formula driven, and 11T was one component of it.
Thank you.
Something's telling me it's the learning loss component, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it was broke out on the slides where we covered ESSER.
Okay. Yeah.
From
got
here.
it.
So I seem to recall that it might be that portion of it.
Got it. Okay.
Certainly could follow up and get you
No
a little more
worries.
detail or
Yeah.
follow up with Allison.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But I also think it's good for the good of the board. The food service fund is not like commercial accounting. You can't move money in and out. It can only be spent on food service stuff. So, I think you'll find that a lot of districts that might not have a roof over a building have the nicest kitchen in town because they can't spend the money anywhere else except on food service. So, sometimes it's actually a hard thing when you have a fiduciary duty and you're like, well, you don't really need anything, and to try and spend it down seems a little ridiculous. But that's why the food service has a plan with the state, because you can't spend it on anything else but food service specifically. So that one's always a challenge. It hasn't been a huge challenge for us, but COVID, when we were doing meals for everybody, obviously it put us in a different spot than we're used to. I don't recall ever having that until maybe a year or two ago.
And then they allow 3 months of operating expenditures as that fund balance. So it's a fairly restricted amount that they're allowing as fund balance in that fund. But you're not alone. I mean, we work with about 50 schools, and I'd say almost all of them, except maybe a couple that come to mind, had the excess fund balance, at least in the last few years. That's simple.
So we'll create a spend down plan.
You have.
Yep. Any other questions? Mark? Well, I just want to thank Mark and his team at Hungerford. They do a phenomenal job for us every year. Their commitment to conducting their audits in such a professional manner and all of their hard work that they put in is really appreciated. Also really appreciate, as Mark mentioned, the hard work that the business office puts in all year long to help make the audit process run smoothly. We really do have a great team in there. As Mark stated, we received an unmodified opinion again this year, and although it's not the most glamorous opinion sounding term, but it is the best opinion, so we're very happy about that. So with that, there's a recommendation for the acceptance of the financial audit results for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023 as presented.
So we would ask the board to accept the audit that has been presented, and that way we can fulfill our responsibility to the state.
I have a motion to accept. Jake and Nick's on support. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
New business item 4 is our policy update. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you, and I will turn to Dr. Corey Wilson Crawford because this is an update on something that the legislature changed this year, and she's met with the policy committee.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. So you have before you a first reading for some policy changes, and this would be a special policy update. Like we talked about last month, we typically do a fall update and a spring update, and this is a recommended special update to deal specifically with legislative changes from the Michigan legislature regarding the revised school code, PARA, which is the Public Employee Relations Act, as well as a couple of ad hoc Senate bills that came through around evaluation for administrators and for teachers. So if you're looking for any of those things and you want to reference back like the actual code, you should look at the revised school code and you can see the changes that the legislature made there. If you look at PARA, you can see the changes that they made there. If you look specifically at MCL 380-1249B, that deals with evaluations for staff. And then two other ones, there's Senate Bill 395 and Senate Bill 396, which dealt specifically with teacher evaluations. And so that's where all of this policy update stems. So what you're going to see is you're going to see 10 policy proposals that would put us in line with the new legal requirements. So these do things like they take previously prohibited subjects of bargaining that are now going to be permitted subjects of bargaining. They take them out of board policy because the board will no longer be able to make unilateral decisions on those things. They're permissive in a collective bargaining environment, and so we will have to do that. So you'll see that specifically in our board policy 122, that's board powers. And then if you move through, there's a secondary policy which is in the 1000s, and that's a school administrator evaluation. And then the other 8 policies all deal with professional staff changes that are specific to PARA or that Senate Bill 395, 396 that I talked about. So I know this is your first reading and maybe you haven't had a chance to dig through all of these in an in-depth way. But in your board packet, you have minutes from our policy meeting, which kind of gives some of the rationale and some of the reasons why these policies need to be updated. And then if you have any questions, you can reach out to me via email or phone. We can have an in-person meeting, and then we'll be back together in February for a second reading where these will be on the agenda as new business. It's important to note that these new laws take effect on February 13th. And our board meeting is February 12th. So we would just be in the nick of time to be in line with these legislative changes. And the legislative changes, of course, trump board policy. So we would like to get those in line with what we need to do legally.
So we come tonight to give you the information that the policy committee reviewed, and to allow you over the course of this next month to review it individually. And if you do have questions, you can reach out to Dr. Wilson Crawford, and she would be able to answer those questions. And if you do have questions, we will make sure the rest of the board knows what those questions are and what the answers are as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Just real quick, just confirming the effective date would be February 13th or the moment the gavel hits on February next month.
For us, on February 12th, the board policy would get approved by this body if that approval takes place.
Okay.
The legislative changes take place technically on February 13th.
Okay, thanks.
Good timing. Okay, thank you. Up next is our certified staff recommendation. Dr. Matthews?
Dr. Wilson Crawford?
Thank you. We had a mid-year resignation, which led to a staff transfer. And so we had a staff member who was at RVA who requested a transfer to Rockford High School, and that staff member moved to Rockford High School. And then we had a vacancy at River Valley Academy. And so Leanne Randall joins Rockford Public School staff pending your approval, of course. She would come to us from West Michigan Aviation Academy. She's also had some international teaching experience, and she'd be excited to work here in Rockford.
So we would ask the board to approve this recommendation tonight.
Okay, motion?
A motion.
Christie, and support, sorry, I pointed at you and I said, Kelly moved.
I support.
Chris, support. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, everybody. And item 6, administrator recommendation.
And I'll again turn to Dr. Wilson-Crawford.
We also had an administrative retirement, of course, Mr. Mike Cuneo, which led to Allison's promotion and left a vacancy in the position that Allison previously served in, which is the Director of Finance for the district. And so Jessica Wahlberg was selected by the committee to serve in the capacity of the next Director of Finance. It's technically a replacement for Mike Cuneo's position due to those changes. And Jessica's resume is in your packet. She comes with a lot of experience from both Byron Center Public Schools and Caledonia Public Schools, and she is here in our audience this evening. So it would be our recommendation that you approve Jessica.
Okay, motion to approve.
So moved. Sorry.
I was looking this way. Tricia moved, Nick, support. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks very much and welcome, Jessica.
And she began with us on January 2nd, and we're excited to have her here, and she'll be a great addition to the business office.
Terrific. Okay, then we're into old business, attendance boundaries. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you. As you are aware, in December, Mike Cuneo, as one of his last acts, came to the board and presented some elementary attendance boundary kind of updates. And we come to the board tonight just to kind of give you an update of where we're at in the process. We're not asking the board to approve anything this evening. What we're doing is giving the board an update. We will come back in February to ask the board for approval of these new attendance boundaries. And so Allison Clements gets to assume the committee chair of the Elementary Boundary Committee. And so tonight she'll present some updates for the board.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. So in 2019, our voters approved a $174 million bond. That bond included the construction of a new elementary school on the district's west side. That new elementary school is named Edgerton Trails Elementary. And it's scheduled to open on time for the 2024-2025 school year. With the construction of this new elementary, it was determined that it is time to evaluate all elementary boundaries. So why are we needing to do this? Well, we have two elementary schools that had boundaries that crossed Northland Drive, and those are Meadow Ridge and Parkside. So that meant that the students that go to those two elementary schools went to two different middle schools. So by creating boundaries that kept Northland Drive as the dividing line, it allowed us to clean that up so that students that attend Parkside will all go to the same middle school together, same as the students at Meadow Ridge moving on to middle school as one unit. Some elementary schools needed to be reduced in size. That includes Valley View and Lakes Elementary. And some elementary schools could increase in size, like Cannonsburg. The criteria that we are using for our redistricting include continuing our neighborhood school concept, ensuring that our size matches our building capacity, working towards uniform class size, allowing room for growth, attending to socioeconomic factors, and making sure that all of this works within our transportation department. So the process that we are using, our committee was established to review these elementary boundaries and create new boundaries. The committee was formed back in March of 2023 and consists of representative elementary building principals, parents, members of our operations team, members of our transportation team, and central office personnel. A recommendation was brought to the board in December of 2023. The district website shared that information and includes attendance boundary timeline, an introductory December 4 letter from Dr. Matthews, PowerPoint from the December 11th board meeting, and community feedback page. Community feedback, we have received, as of this morning, 60 responses on our community feedback page. The feedback is being reviewed by Cabinet and the committee. Most of the feedback that we've received focuses on specific neighborhoods and asks questions about why decisions were made. Our current students and families will have an opportunity to express their intent for the 2024-2025 school year in a special school of choice window. This window is not the typical school of choice window, which opens in the spring. The school of choice window for current students and families will open after the board approves the elementary boundaries. So the district will continue to review community feedback through January 31st. The board will receive an update on the feedback and the recommendations of the committee and the administration on how to proceed. Final recommendations will go to the board on February 12th. The special school of choice window that I mentioned will open as follows. The in-district students, the window will open in mid-February, and then for the current out-of-district school of choice students in early March. The district does understand the need for further clarification on the school of choice process and will provide that information once more details are available. Any questions?
I believe that 60 is a much smaller number than the total number impacted.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't have an exact number of families in our district, but as you know, our district is quite large, and so for 60 responses, it actually is a pretty small number compared to the group.
Hey, I appreciate the timing too, just picking up on that. If people were busy through the holiday season and they're now kind of coming back and taking a look at this, we still have time to submit feedback through that link, and that'll be considered over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I think that timing works well.
And we will send out tomorrow an email to all parents, kind of alerting them to what happened at the board meeting, and this will be part of that, and it will direct them to the website where they can submit questions if they want to.
Will we also provide directions on how to do the special February school choice path?
Yes, that will be forthcoming. We just need some more details first before we can proceed with those instructions.
When we did talk about this last time, we talked about the fifth graders, or whoever was going to be in fifth grade next year would ultimately get to finish their year in the school in which they would have the choice to do that, correct?
Yes.
If they want to.
Yes, if they choose to.
Other questions?
So if the board hears from parents or has questions yourself, certainly reach out to Allison or to me, and we'll work with the committee as we kind of close this piece of it and bring the final recommendation to the board in February.
Okay. Thanks, Allison. Okay, into reports. Number one, Camille, our student representative, you're up.
Hello, my name's Camille. I'll be talking about our two-day week last week. First, athletically, we've had a lot of wins lately. The girls' basketball beat Granville, and boys' basketball beat Granville last Thursday because it was moved from Friday. It was Hoops for Haiti. It was a really fun night. Wrestling beat Jenison and Caledonia in a tournament over the weekend. Gymnastics, they were flip-flop champs, which Haley tried to explain to me. I don't really know exactly what that means, but they're doing great, and she thinks they might be able to make it to states again this year, so hopefully they do. Hockey also just won last week. Girls bowling beat Grand Haven. Boys swim and dive are ranked 9 in D1. And esports, actually, if you're interested, they have an open house tonight that you can look into. Musical advancement, there's a jazz band concert this Friday, and I was told that I look like I belong in Mamma Mia. I'm not in the show, but I will be supporting, and you can too. The tickets are on sale starting today. And then there's also AP Studio Art. They have a portrait exhibit, which is between the library and the cafeteria. On the way there, there's the Ram Gallery. You can look through it, and it's really cool. And then current events, it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I thought it was really cool that the Rockford High School noticed that. We had a moment of silence. And personally, I had my senior comp class. They did a little project on that. We did some reading and some videos about it, and I appreciate that. There's a blood drive this January 23rd and January 25th. Some of the high schoolers need to get consent for that, but. And then Hoops for Haiti, that was last Thursday. It was really fun. I don't know exactly how much money we raised for Haiti, but I'm sure it was a lot. There was a lot of people there. Midterms are happening right now. They had a lot of time to look over all their notes. KCTC enrollment applications, those are in the guidance counseling office that you can get. And then after grad, those were all sent out to parents. I think everyone should have gotten the email, and prices are starting to go up next week if you haven't turned those in yet. And then snow days, as a student representative, I have to say, you can keep them coming. I think that's, if you have any questions.
I have a comment, just for the board. The annual music, so both the choral and the band, they do their big conference, all-state conference in Grand Rapids every year. That's the 25th, 26th, 27th. And while we don't have any ensembles or full groups, we do have some all-state folks in middle school orchestra, obviously the high school band. There's some middle school all-staters. If you're interested, I can send you the link. The tickets are $10. The Ticketmaster fees are double plus of that. But they always get excited when administration is there. But I think we have 10 students in the high school portion of it. And then the middle school, I'm not sure, but there are at least 4 that I'm aware of. And then somebody in the jazz band, all state. So just thought I'd point that out if you're not doing anything. I think most of the performances that I bought tickets for are on Saturday, the 27th, if you're interested, for a nice winter day down in downtown Grand Rapids.
Thank you for that. I'll also make sure to recognize those students.
Thanks, Camille.
Yeah, thanks, Camille.
Let's see, up next is committee reports. We've covered the policy committee items earlier on the agenda, but Christy, anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you, Corey and Aaron, for giving a comprehensive report. Basically, like Corey said, it's just legalese that we're changing, and we had some grammatical changes in there too, but that's, we just need to be in compliance.
Okay, thanks, Christy.
Yeah.
And third under reports is collaborative team reports. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Folsom. We have Mindy McGinn, who will represent the elementary group.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to say that we're excited to be back from a beautiful holiday break in our almost called it spring break, our snow break, or whatever you wanted to call it from last week. Students and staff are really they're grounded coming back. You can feel that coming into the building. That first Monday we came in, students walked in and were happy. Staff members were happy. I think they appreciated a break after the Christmas and New Year's and all the holiday business, so they came back settled and ready to roll. So in January we are preparing for many things. We're finalizing our spelling bee building champions. That'll be going to the county level soon. We're preparing for our Battle of the Books teams and that long-standing tradition we have with our 5th graders. We have new pilots coming in ELA. I think you know about that. The exciting part is it's coming to us in Spanish and in English. So all our students will have a chance to have some experiences there. Our middle school orchestras are actually coming to play for our 5th graders, which I think is exciting. As a parent of an orchestra student, I think that's a good thing for them to come and share what they're learning. And I'm always impressed by the opportunities they have as they go to middle school when they leave us. We have 4th graders still working on going to zoo school. We have assessment coming up, so we're making our final preparations to get ready for that assessment window in February. And we're looking at our goals. We're looking at our building goals. We're looking at our collaborative team goals. We're monitoring to say that if we're on track and doing what we said we were going to do. And we're looking forward to having that opportunity to see those assessment scores, to see if what we're doing and what we said we were going to do is working. So beyond that, we're just thankful for you as board members in this month. You received some black bags on your table tonight from the elementary principals as a little thank you. And as what's become a tradition here in Rockford, we are, each elementary school will pick a book that will be dedicated to a board member. This one goes to Ms. Ramsey, as she's our Lakes representative, but inside will be your name and our board for the 2024 school year. So if you do reassign, then your book name will be in the school that you served last year. So maybe you want to like stay where you're at. I don't know. But we do want to thank you, and we thought a nice way to honor you is a way for students in the future to see the work that you've done and to ask questions about that. So I will leave this for you to look at. If you'd like to look at it and look through, you may. What questions do you have for me?
My question about recess and temperatures.
Yes.
Yeah, good question.
What happens?
Yep. So if the temperature or wind chill is at 0 or below, they stay in. If it's at 1 or above, they go out. Elementary principals on our agenda come Thursday are going to be working together to say, okay, what app are we using to make sure that if I'm keeping my kids in, but in Canonsburg they go out, that doesn't seem quite reasonable or understandable. So we're going to be saying, this is the app we're going to use to make sure we're all reading the weather accurately and correctly and consistently, so that we're all doing the same thing.
Thank you.
Yep. What else can I answer for you tonight?
Other questions?
Right?
Thanks for the
Thank you.
walks.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the gifts.
Yeah.
And our secondary report is from Lisa Whitefeller, principal at North Rockford Middle School.
Thank you. Dr. Matthews, our school board representative. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. From the secondary perspective, we also want to thank our school board members for everything that you do, for your service, for your time, for your commitment, and everything that you do for our students. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We also will be donating a book on behalf of every board member to our secondary schools, but specifically in regards to our CI programming. So one of the things that we know is that some of our students that are in the CI programming, especially at the secondary level, they read maybe at a second grade level or third grade, or some of them may not be able to read at all. So one of the things that is coming out is books that look like chapter books, and so they can go to the library, they can get a book that looks like a middle school book or a high school book, but it's really at their level. So that is something that we're going to be doing, and also representing our school board members in regards to that. So once again, thank you for everything that you do. In regards to the high school, Camille shared a lot of the information that's happening, but I do have a little bit more information from all of us at the secondary level. We were appreciative, like I said, and we'll be donating those books. From the high school level, both freshman center and high school, they are hosting parent-teacher conferences this week. And it seems soon, but it is winter conference time. And so Thursday, the RHS counselors will also be hosting, right after conferences, a program about FAFSA. So if you're a new parent to this process, I would strongly, as a former parent of a college student, I would strongly encourage you to go. So that is something, so they're having parent-teacher conferences right there at the high school. They're having conferences at River Valley as well too on Wednesday, but Thursday is when the session is at Rockford High School. If you have any questions or want additional information, please call the high school and they can help. The Freshman Center has implemented something called a learning lunch. This has been a great way for Freshman Center students to have the opportunity to make up missing assignments or to get content-specific help. They do not have an intervention program throughout their day, so this learning lunch is something that is a great opportunity for our students to be able to get additional help that they need. The Freshman Center also plans to host a snow dance. So the snow dance will take place on February 10th. This is in conclusion to their Student Appreciation Week. The Freshman Center hosts a Student Appreciation Week, and what they do is every single day during that week, they have fun activities to celebrate their incredible students. River Valley has been focusing on their Student Leadership Council. So they have approximately 10 students on their Student Leadership Council, and they do a lot of different things like in regards to teaching them leadership skills and being able to plan events at River Valley. So prior to the holiday break, they planned activities that focused on respect and caring and making a difference in their community. And the students and administration look forward to continuing those events and planning for their winter and spring activities. At the middle school level, East Rockford Middle School, they received a significant reward in regards to being able to have their 8th grade band, and then they had 7th before of the 7th grade band members, traveled to Chicago to perform at the International Music Convention. This is a huge deal for our performing arts program. Every state in over 30 countries were represented in Chicago. Students had the opportunity to perform 2 pieces, but the most exciting thing about performing these 2 pieces is that they performed in front of the people that composed the pieces. And so not only then did they get to perform for people, but they got to perform in front of the people that actually composed the pieces. And so afterwards, then they had the opportunity to meet and to talk to those people. So that was pretty cool for our students. At North Rockford Middle School, one of the things that we are focusing on is looking at our goals again. And one of the things that we had talked about this year really trying to focus on is our intervention time, and that's called RAM time at North. And so one of the things that we were doing is not just intervention, but we also wanted to focus and expand our program to extensions into other things like college and career readiness skills. So we implemented a career series. So we've been having people come in and talk about their careers in all the different career pathways. So last week we had somebody from MLive come in, and it was really cool because middle school kids are chatty sometimes, if you don't know. And so it was so funny because like he said, oh my gosh, like, you know, I understand chatty middle school kids and you can use that to your advantage because maybe you should look at a career in communications. And so just really talking to the students about how they can use the things that they love and the things that they want to do to be able to collaborate with others, to be able to help them in their future and with their career goals. So we've appreciated this career series. We've appreciated the community members and the parents that have volunteered to come in and to help and to have those partnerships. So thank you to everybody that has been involved with that as well. And then last but not least, we had our spelling bee at North Rockford Middle School. And as the board knows, we had a champion, Brady Bowers, last year, go all the way to Washington, D.C. And this year was our spelling bee contest again, just this past week. And Brady, once again, received the championship. So it was his parents and Brady. I think they were all kind of nervous, and he had some pretty good words that were given to him. But anyways, he prevailed, and so we have 2 students going to regionals, and with Brady representing Rockford Public Schools. So any questions for the secondary, or in regards to secondary?
Are you going to continue the career pathways? Is that something that you just do during the month of January?
No, that's all year.
That's all year that you do?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. So anybody that would love to come in, we'd love to have you.
What grade level of students, parents should attend FAFSA night?
Interesting. Personally, I think this is from my own personal experience. I think the earlier that you can go, the better. So I would not wait till your child is a senior or even a junior, you know, possibly even going their sophomore year, maybe even their freshman year. But I mean, at least sophomore, junior year. Any other questions? All right, thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for reports. We're going to go into recognition of visitors and hearing of people present. I'd like to take a moment to outline the guidelines for the public comment portion of our meeting. First and foremost, we value and welcome your input and feedback. We believe a collaborative relationship between our schools and the Rockford community is essential to achieving our shared goals. Public comment at the board meeting is intended to give the Rockford community an opportunity to address the board on issues in the Rockford Public Schools. At our meetings, the board and individual board members will not directly respond to comments or questions that arise during the public participation portion of the meeting. If a follow-up is needed, the superintendent will contact the speaker for additional insight or to provide clarification. We ask you limit your comments to 3 minutes. This helps us accommodate as many speakers as possible and ensure that everyone has the equal opportunity to express their views. Please be respectful in your comments and refrain from using inappropriate language or engaging in personal attacks. We want to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable expressing their opinions without fear of retribution or harassment. To ensure due process and respect for individual rights, the district maintains a formal process for handling complaints against individuals. If you have a problem involving an individual or a specific incident, we encourage you to consider addressing it through administrative channels by contacting the superintendent's office. Furthermore, we ask that speakers express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. While it is not our intent to stifle public comment, speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. If you are unsure of the legal ramifications of what you're about to say, we urge you to consult first with your legal advisor. We encourage you to provide constructive feedback and suggestions for improvement. Your comments can help us identify areas where we can improve our schools and better serve our students and families. We thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts. We look forward to working together to ensure that our schools continue to be a source of pride for our community. Lastly, please remember that public comment at our board meetings is one way we hear feedback from the community. It is certainly not the only way. Those who prefer other means to communicate do so via email, through the district website, or by calling the superintendent's office. Thank you for that. With that said, we have 10 folks signed up to speak tonight. Our timer's ready. Up first is Cassandra Villarreal. I'm sorry if I...
That was very close.
Hi.
It's Villarreal, but I don't expect you to say it that way.
Yours is much nicer, so thank you for helping with that. But please,
we
please
don't
go.
really say it like that. We typically say it Villarreal. And I just, before I begin, wanted to specify that I am speaking, we didn't speak about it today, but about the lawsuit that was brought to the school, because otherwise this won't make sense. According to the 2021 National Survey on LGBTQ Youth Mental Health, 28% of LGBTQ youth reported experiencing homelessness or housing instability at some point in their lives. Homelessness and housing instability reported at higher rates among transgender and non-binary youth at an average of 37% compared to only 23% of cisgender queer youth. 16% of queer youth reported that they had slept away from parents or caregivers because they ran away from home, with more than half reporting that they ran away from home because of mistreatment or fear of mistreatment due to their LGBTQ identity. I am well aware that schools are a business, which means they're going to do what they can to protect themselves from a lawsuit. Nobody wants to pay out for a lawsuit, and nobody wants to admit wrongdoing. I refuse to lose sight of why we are here in the first place. Who's protecting the trans student at the center of all this? Who is stopping him from becoming one of these statistics? I was one of the queer youth who didn't know how to come out to my family. When the world defaults to heteronormativity, it's hard realizing that you don't fit in. It's scary to risk losing friends and family over bigotry and misunderstanding. It's wrong to force a child to choose between being authentic to themselves and a stable, safe home life. I'm lucky. I knew I wouldn't be kicked out of my home. I knew my parents would love me regardless. Even knowing all that, it was still hard to come out to them. I struggled with thoughts of suicide, self-harm, and major depression over my struggle to come out. My arms are a roadmap of scars of my journey to come out. I can't imagine the struggle and fear of coming out while knowing my family won't be supportive. My heart goes out to this child at the center of this lawsuit. I am now a parent, and at this point, all I know is that my son, my sweet, compassionate, energetic little boy, will have my support in every way he chooses to express himself, whether that be clothing, hairstyles, or crushes. I can't protect him from the outside world, but I can provide him a safe place at home that so many queer youth lack. He will always be safe in my arms and in my home, and he will always have somewhere to go. That is my ultimate job as a mom, and that is what I want for this trans student at the center of this lawsuit. In my eyes, all the school has done is the bare minimum. They chose to respect the chosen name and pronouns of an individual. They absolutely haven't done anything wrong in showing this teenager respect and compassion. But the real question is, what will you do now? What will you do now that this lawsuit is looming over us? I would like to see the Rockford School District stand behind the LGBTQ+ youth and parents during this lawsuit and not sweep it under the rug. I can only hope that, if this is ever my son or daughter, they are offered the same basic respect and a safe place to land in their journey. I hope you will all consider this when deciding how to proceed with this lawsuit. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we'll reset the clock. We have Dr. Clara Zayeda? Zieda. Thank you for your help with that one as well.
No worries.
Zieda.
Ziede. It means extra, by the way.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a nice break, great time with your beloved ones for the holidays. I will say something unusual is spreading throughout America's schools. I was puzzled to hear about the lawsuit filed against our district, where the parents claim that their child was socially transitioned without their knowledge, that the child's questioning about her own identity was hidden from her own parents. This is simply child abuse. Child abuse always starts with a secret between a minor and an adult. Never and ever should an adult keep a secret with a minor without the parent's knowledge. So why do the counselors keep secrets from the parents? The fact that hiding from parents being a policy is not a good reason. What is body dysmorphia? It is a mental health condition where a person spends a lot of time worrying about flaws in their appearance. Did this girl have body dysmorphia? Bulimia is a body dysmorphia. So, if a child has bulimia, do you hide it from the parents? Socially transitioning a minor leads to more body harm. Minors cannot even get a tattoo without the parents' approval. We need to protect our kids from child abuse. We need the schools to teach how to think and stop teaching what to think. We need to promote education. Go back to basics. Educators and parents are partners, but at the end, the parent is the sole responsible party for the child. Parents across the country need to arm themselves and protect their kids. They have the right to know about their kids' well-being. As parents, we are losing control of our kids to the state. We need to stand up together and fight. Thank you.
Okay, up next on the list is Charles Curtis.
Good evening. I agree completely with that last statement. Represented here is a diversity of worldviews regarding gender and sexuality, but that isn't really the issue tonight. I personally stand on the side of scientific chromosomal reality that there are two and only two genders, male and female, and that every cell in our body carries with it this God-given code, XX or XY. Others believe differently. I don't hold any animosity toward them. I just don't agree. For now, let's just agree to disagree, because what we do have at issue is a full-blown assault on parental rights and authority by Rockford Public Schools that has occurred with the Meade family. By the actions of RPS staff and administration behind the backs of these parents, deceiving and lying to them, as well as altering and forging documents to cover up, RPS has violated the trust of not only the Meade family, but all families whose children it has been granted the sacred responsibility to educate. We can only guess how often this is occurring, since it appears there are secret policies requiring staff to hide these gender issues from parents. Studies show that affirming gender confusion in immature, impressionable children, especially by trusted adults, tends to lock in those feelings and can lead them toward a very dangerous and expensive lifestyle. It all too often results in puberty blockers, hormone therapy, chemical castration, and ultimately surgical and medical procedures, making children permanent patients requiring a lifetime of care. This is in no way affirming care, as it is called. It is child abuse. And by your actions, you become partly responsible and possibly liable. In this country, God has given parents, not you meaning the district, the responsibility for their children's upbringing and education. And it is parents who will have to live with the consequences and pay the bills. We know very well that what happened to the Meades would never be tolerated with your own children, to be influenced and propagandized, undermining your values behind your back. The district claims to operate transparently and respect parents' rights, but now the truth is out. Rather than being an honest educational institution focusing on academics, RPS is becoming an agent of woke propaganda, miseducating and endangering vulnerable children, creating division in families and school staff, as well as the community, and undermining your inherited goodwill and support. Come on, guys, wake up. This is nonsense. You are headed down a dark path. change course, apologize, be honest, respect families, focus on education, not indoctrination, before the situation becomes irreparable. If I had children in the school district and it remains the same as it is now, I would pull my children out as well.
Up next is Brenda Wadarski. Is Brenda here?
I'm going to first start with a prayer. Father, we know that in ourselves we are nothing, but in you we are made complete. Our identity is found in Christ, and that is the basis of our self-worth, making us valuable and capable of worthy service through Christ, who dwells within us. Help us not be consumed with thoughts of how the world views us, but to think soberly with good judgment, so that we do not look to the wrong source for approval or imitate that which deglorifies Christ. Through Christ Jesus our Lord, we pray, amen. If we are trusting an institution that will lie, it is no longer an education system. When you have an education that lies, it's no longer an education system. Why are we fearing man instead of God, giving authority to man? You cannot play both sides. Playing wickedness, stand for truth. No matter what, your brain will always be wired as a male or a female. So is your DNA and everything else, your heart and everything inside of you. We have groomers traumatizing our kids. Queer theory is not an identity. It's an identity defined as a political stance. It's an oppositional stance to the normal, legitimate, or dominant. Traumatizing kids, the trauma bond, which is mentioned in the MDE, it's age-inappropriate books, activities in order to traumatize them. Trauma needs resolution. Story hour, alternate mode of kinship, desperately confusing individuals for lifetime medical relationships for the rest of their lives. It's the biggest form of child abuse. Broken, confused kids, which is what Mayo did in China. Broken young people who will grow up to be activists, they need radical, political, anti-normal. Gender identity is a cult grooming term used to destroy kids. Feelings don't matter. Why do we ignore the most important book to humanity? Stand against sin or ignore it. The most important book to humanity is the Bible. I did write a letter, and I'm writing to express deep concerns about the recent lawsuits and the apparent undermining of parental rights within the education system. Education is a cornerstone of our society, and it is disheartening to witness a shift from an objective education system to what some perceive as an indoctrination system. The recent legal actions highlight the growing tensions between parents and educational institutions. It is important to ensure that transparency and open communication with parents is maintained. It is disconcerting to hear headline news or lack of disclosure which erodes the trust that parents place in the education system. Parents have a fundamental right to be involved in their child's education and have a say in their values and beliefs instilled in them during their formative years. A healthy education system should encourage open dialogue between educators and parents, fostering an environment where different perspectives can be respectfully considered. The shift towards indoctrination rather than education is troubling. Our education system should prioritize critical thinking, open-mindedness, and a balanced presentation of information. It is essential that students are given the tools to think independently. Thank you.
Okay, up next is, we'll reset the clock, Craig Ladyman.
Decided to sing a song tonight. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gavel over there telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Now there's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Woke teachers speaking their mind, teaching kids to have sex in the behind. We gotta stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. And what exactly is going down? What in the wide, wide world of woke is going on here? Well, I got another little song for you. It's a show tune for all of you. It's an overthrow. Welcome to the communist overthrow. It was started almost 4 years ago by George Floyd, don't you know? It's the communist corporate overthrow. So I understand too. It's my first woke communist overthrow, and we're all just kind of going through this the first time. So how did it happen? What went down? Well, I got a little reggae song that will help everybody understand what exactly went down. I caught the sheriff kneeling down to the BLM. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, I caught the sheriff. And you know that stuff is treason. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I caught the sheriff. June 3rd, 2020, in the downtown. In front of the Grand Rapids Police Station is where her knee hit the ground. And I say, I caught the sheriff kneeling down with her deputies. Oh, oh, yeah.
Are you serious right now?
I caught the sheriff, and that's where we lost all our liberties. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you do, you have proof. You bring receipts. I figured I'd entertain you folks tonight. If you go to the KSA document that was typed up on June 5th of 2020, 2 days after the kneel down, you got basically all 21 public school boards to go ahead and sign on to an unwavering commitment of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. There were some negotiations that go down. When you have 21 of these signatures, plus the Grand Rapids Diocese and the Grand Rapids Public Schools, there was offer and acceptance. This isn't done for free. What this is fraud, it's an overthrow, and it's conspiracy on all 21 of these public school boards.
Up next is Emily Whalen.
Hello again. Not sure if you remember me from August. I said I wasn't going to go away. Felt like my demographic was not being represented as a working single mom. With first half of the school year behind us, I'd like to offer some feedback on the early releases. I expressed my biggest concern was consistency with learning environments and schedules. And I can tell you it took 8 weeks for my son to adjust. He had anxiety, he had behavior issues. The therapist in the school was contacting me, asking me if something was going on at home. The therapist then agreed, and I said he's having, problems with the schedule. She said her kids were also having a hard time adjusting with the inconsistencies in the schedule. The PLC is a continuous cycle of evaluating learning, and I was told meetings on Wednesdays would allow for changes to be implemented the next day. Wednesday after winter break, I questioned what could be evaluated after 2 days, which ended up being 1, and then Wednesday was canceled. But I got an email from this teacher stating I will be gone on Thursday along with the other 2 second grade teachers for curriculum professional development. I received that on Sunday before the snow days. So there was back-to-back scheduled professional development. I'm questioning why, and if this can be done when my son is in school, why can't it be done more? Why did we go from 8 to 18 early releases? This issue is actually in your control. And before you approve next year's school calendar, I ask you please look at days like this where it doesn't fit, because when we get back from spring break, it's the same thing. 2 days, early release. We have a week and a half off. what is there to be evaluated? These kids also have a lot of changes next year. They've had pandemic, the schedule changes, and now my son has to go to a different school. And I'm hoping that I can choose what school he goes to, because we are school of choice, so I'm looking forward to seeing those guidelines, to keep him with his friends and to make sure that he does go to middle school with his friends. Before I leave, I only have 20 seconds, of course, so I had a whole list of other parent comments. Memorial Day, bring it back. Mid-fall break, please consider it. And let the kids go to school the first week of June. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Spencer Hayes.
I am here today to speak on behalf of those that are transgender, students at Rockford District, and that live in Rockford. I am all of these. And I have an entire speech written out that isn't worth it. I was one of those students that started transitioning at 14. The difference is that I had support. I had support in my school, and I had support in my family. I stopped transitioning because of people that harmed me outside of my family. I spent 5 years miserable and hating myself before I finally decided that I needed to be me authentically. So at 20 years old, I turned the leaf over and became myself. I am transgender. I'm happy. I'm healthy.
You're amazing.
And I agree with the school's decision to help this student and keep that confidential, because students have rights. They are people. They are not just kids.
They're minors.
They are growing and learning. They are not supposed to just fit into a mold that we decide this is what you're going to be, because that's what we wouldn't want for ourselves. We deserve to we should treat them with respect, because that's what they deserve. They are young adults. Let them learn and live. Support them and educate them. School is a safe place. It should be a safe place for them to be themselves. They should not have to worry about if they go home and are themselves, that they may not have a home, that they may not have the family that they did before, because they are themselves. They should be able to go to school and be themselves and learn about who they are. They should be able to go to school and learn about the world, because the world is not just Rockford. It's not. The world is much larger, and they deserve better. So I agree with the school, and I'm sorry for those that don't.
Thank you. And up next is Amanda Curry.
Hi, I'm Amanda Curry. My husband and I have 4 children in the district. There's a quote that has resonated with me lately: "Silence is often misinterpreted, but never misquoted." It spoke to me because I feel like it represents a large population of families in this district. The ones that stay silent because they don't want their words to be misquoted or come across as unloving, unkind, or not inclusive of everyone. This is me included. They genuinely care for others and don't want to risk offending them, but in the effort to stay safe, silent, and not misquoted, perhaps our silence has now been misinterpreted. Our silence has communicated that we are okay with the district and the state encouraging the pride culture and all it encompasses. Some may say we are simply being supportive of the students that are exploring these lifestyles, but I would caution that in many ways we are normalizing and promoting them, including but not limited to flags that were available to staff to hang in their classrooms, books in the library, rainbow lighting at concerts, items hung on teacher bulletin boards and walls. While I love that the heart behind it is hopefully to help students who are questioning their sexuality to feel included, have we considered that simultaneously another story is developing? A story of several other kids who feel uncomfortable seeing all of this at school and have moral concerns with these lifestyles. Kids who want to stay in a certain class and activity but have chosen not to because they don't agree with the promotion of all that pride encompasses. In specific regard to the trans lifestyle, have we considered that in all circumstances in life, kids need the adults in their life to tell them the truth, even when it's hard. They need the truth because then they know they can trust the adults. The truth is that none of us can change our biological sex to the opposite. As simply as I cannot say that my eyes are brown when they are blue or that I'm 5'8" when I'm only 5'4", there are concrete parts of our identity that are unchangeable, and the sooner we can help students accept themselves for who they were uniquely and genetically created to be instead of exploring the lies of our current culture, the sooner we can have more confident kids. I'm aware that in extremely rare circumstances, a person can be born intersex, but the rate at which the students are randomly deciding that they are trans is alarming and also indicates that it's more of a message of culture. If we continue this path, are we also willing to start telling our young elementary students what transitioning would mean for them as they got older? That it would require medications, altering their hormones, having surgeries to remove parts of their body? Is this part of the culture we want to build at Rockford? Telling our kids the false story that they were born into the wrong body, that they were created incorrectly, that they aren't just loved the way that they are? Could we be different? Could we go back to supporting and promoting only that which is directly related to the subject matter or extracurricular activity? Could we all let students know that they are welcome and deeply loved by adopting a one Rockford message across our district instead of all the subgroups? Imagine how uncomplicated that could be. We could say to our Rockford kids, we are one Rockford. We treat others how we would like to be treated, and we keep saying it and putting the message in front of them until we are living it out every day.
Next on the list is Dwayne Gritter. Is Dwayne here?
I've addressed you guys probably 30 times in the last 4 years. I don't really have much to say tonight, but I'm just going to look over what's been brought to you already. Dr. Clara, she says stop keeping secrets from the parents. I've got 3 minutes. I'm going to use every bit of it. You guys got to use up this time and think about what you were told this evening. Every one of you got to think about this. I see you guys leave here at the end of a board meeting, and the first thing you do is head to the bar. To me, I think you ought to be thinking about what's going on with your community, not spending time down there having gala times. Charlie Curtis, our PS staff has violated the trust. This board is in charge of the staff and the admins here. You guys have a hell of a lot more responsibility than what you think you have. You need to take that to heart. Brenda, search your heart, she says. Pay attention to what's going on here. Rockford Public Schools is really turning. They're going down the evil road, guys. The community's seeing it. Craig Ladyman, yeah, it was funny, but I'll tell you what, it was real. Rockford's becoming very woke. Very woke. Wasn't this way 30 years ago when I was living in Belmont. Wasn't this way 15 years ago. Emily did bring up the August meeting. She's concerned about her schedule. So apparently no one's really taking any concern about that. This board should take concern. You got parents out here that are concerned about a schedule that stinks. You got kids that don't know what day they're going to school, getting 2 and 3 days off in between weeks that are, what, snow days or whatever's going on. They don't know if they're coming or going. Amanda Curry, the silence is misinterpreted. You've got a lot of community members here that feel the same way most of these people in this room do, and they're afraid to say anything. They're afraid that you're going to take it out on their kids in school. That's why they don't speak. Trust me, there's a lot more people out here in Rockford that are pissed off about what's going on here than what you know. I got nothing to gain or lose here other than to bring it to you guys and make you realize. Take some time to think about it. Listen to what you've heard from these people. The majority of people here tonight are on the side of the right, and you guys are going down an evil path. It's going to catch up with you, and you're going to end up paying for it in the long run. I'll take the rest of my 18 seconds for you to think about what I've just said.
Okay, up next, last on this tonight is Sonia Andrews.
Hi, Board of Education. I am here today on behalf of REA and RESPA. It is Board Appreciation Month, and we should show our appreciation more than just in January. But I'm here on behalf of REA and RESPA members to express our gratitude for you for the time and commitment that you put into your work on the school board. It was interesting today. I was working with a group of fifth graders at Valley View, and one particularly eloquent fifth grade boy said to me, and I'm going to quote, we were talking about Martin Luther King Jr., by the way, and they were debating whether we should have school as a way to honor and celebrate him or not have school. And he said very fervently, we need to treasure what MLK taught us about treating all people fairly, full stop. He said full stop. And it resonated with me as your jobs on a public school board that you do this. That is part of our mission, is to take the kids and their families who show up at our doors as they are and provide them a safe and welcoming environment, because that's what we know they need in order to learn. And on top of all of the other things that you do for our school and our district, and you do it with the hurdles that are presented to you, whether it's at the state level with funding or legislation, you do it because you know your mission is to serve the public students in our community, and you do it well, and I thank you for it.
Last on the agenda is superintendent remarks. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Today was not a snow day in Rockford. Some parents have asked why it was not. Many students actually asked me why it was not. The reason is that it is winter in Michigan. The roads, while not perfect, were passable. 100% of our bus drivers reported to work this morning. Our buses ran on time. Was it cold? Yes, it was. Were the roads covered in snow and in some places ice? Yes, they were. Were we able to get to school? Yes, we were. Was it dangerous for our staff and students? I did not believe that it would be. We had a driver from transportation who goes out at 4 a.m. and he reported to Allison, who reported to me. And then I went out at 5:30 as well. And I understand the immense responsibility I have to try and keep students and staff safe as they travel to and from school. Today was a day that I believed we could safely travel. Our attendance was strong, our buses arrived safely, and our student drivers did a good job. So I believe that it was a day we could safely get to and from school. I appreciate the respectful conversations that have come before the board this evening. I can speak of what I know. And what I know is that our schools work hard in collaboration with parents to help students grow up. I visit buildings each week and see our staff supporting our students, supporting each other, and working to ensure that our students will be successful. Our staff became teachers and administrators. Our staff made decisions to work in schools because they believe that schools are an honorable place to work. Our staff, bus drivers, cooks, secretaries, teachers, administrators, coaches, work in schools because they want to support kids, work with families, help raise our community's children and students so that they can participate in our communities. Our staff care deeply for the students and kids who are in our schools and work hard to listen to them, support them, and work with and help parents so that our kids can participate in our communities and continue to grow and mature into community members who will continue to make communities like Rockford great places to be. I just want to reinforce what Camille mentioned this evening, that I would encourage our community to go to rocktix.org, that's ROCKTIX.org, to get tickets for the upcoming musical at Rockford High School. That will be the first 2 weekends in March. And this musical is Mamma Mia. And our students are working hard on this production, and tickets are available, and I would encourage our community to support that. And finally tonight, I wanted to make the community aware that starting on January 17th, which is this Wednesday, I will be representing the district on a trip to Guatemala to help build a school in a village there. The American Association of School Administrators is a professional organization to which I belong. They selected me with a handful of other superintendents from across the nation, and along with business officials, secondary school principals, and elementary school principals, to represent our country, to support building a school in Guatemala. And so I will, for a week, from January 17th to January 24th, be in Guatemala to support their school and represent our district. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. That's our agenda. With that, we're adjourned.